everyone. It's me, Dr. J. Thank you for joining me today for Behavior Health and Wellness for Wellness Wednesday. I hope that you are having a great day despite this rain. It is raining here in Louisiana, and we're on the lookout for a hurricane or a tropical storm Zeta. Yes, we are still in hurricane season, and the lower line areas of Louisiana are being very careful, and we're keeping them in prayer for areas outside of the levee protection system. They're expected to get some very inclement. They're looking for surges, so we want to keep them in prayer at this time. And Hurricane Zeta has us wet here in the boot. Um, Quick joke: I saw a post on Facebook not too long ago, and it said, "Where do you live in Louisiana?" And the joke said, "Somewhere in the cone." It seems that this has been a very active season. So, as I said, we want to have good spirits, but we want to keep people in prayer. I pray that we come out of this and we don't lose any lives, or it's not too bad. But right now, just enjoying the weather. I hope that you are somewhere dry and keeping safe. And don't forget, don't drive into areas where you're not familiar with. Don't go on the bridges right now. You don't know how deep the water is. So if you can, hunker down and tune in to Behavioral Health and Wellness. It's me, Dr. J, and I am so excited about this day. Let's see what we have. I want to make sure that I hit all of my areas. I'll turn on the comments and make sure we don't have any comments coming in. Don't forget, if you have any comments that you want to send in, type them in the comment box and I can see them, and I'll make sure, if it's something that you want me to say while we are on this live, I will make sure to make that announcement. I want you also to know that I am on Instagram. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, Behavioral Health and Wellness with Dr. J. You can also catch us on Twitter. I am on LinkedIn. And the podcast, very excited about the podcast. Have some great information to share with you later today about some updates that we received from the podcast. Continue to tune in. We are on anchor.fm/Dr. JAAY. Yes, very excited to be here with you today. After the live, make sure that you tune into the YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you like the information that you hear. We have a very special guest that will actually be on after I get off of the live. We had a representative to come in from the Louisiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Some more housekeeping. Drum Sand Publishing and Books is trying to find out what you are reading. Make sure you go to their Facebook page and let them know what you're reading. If you have a reading group, make sure that you leave a message. It is a very good resource for all of those people who love to read books. I love reading. I am an author as well. I have some great information that's going to be displayed on that page very soon, because I have completed my book. Yay! And I'm very excited about the completion of this poetry book. This is a poetry book. I write poetry as well as novels, but I am very excited that that is going to be released very soon. So just stay tuned for updates and you'll get more information. If you want to let Drum Sand Publishing know about a book club or any upcoming events that can be posted, please send an email to drumsandspublishing@yahoo.com. Okay, let's move right along. Have quite a bit of information to get out today. Today, we are early voting is over. I hope you took advantage of that opportunity to get out and vote early. If not, I hope you have a plan The election is next Tuesday. That is November the 3rd. The kids do not have school. Parents, I hope you have your plan. If you have kids that are of age that can vote, go out as a team. Let your voice be heard. November 3rd is the day for you to get your vote out. Rock the vote. Let your voice be heard. I am hoping that we go out in large numbers so that we can actually be a part of the voting process. It's your right. So go ahead on and take advantage of it. So, for my main topic today, is very, I guess I get emotional when I think about what we're talking about today, because I know that all month we have been acknowledging breast cancer awareness, and we have actually had activities and events because we are still looking for a cure for breast cancer, something that affects families on a daily. But also, it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I know that lately, I know that domestic violence has been around. I mean, we really need to get control, and we really need to see what can be done to control domestic violence. But as of late with COVID-19, it is very evident that something is happening, because the news is reporting events, and a lot of them are fatal. So we definitely need to find ways that we can be proactive as it relates to domestic violence. Today, I will have a representative on from the Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and they'll bring some information. So definitely, I really am. I mean, this hits my heart when we start talking about domestic violence, because I mean, it's lives lost, and I definitely want to see what I can do, and if we can do anything with this platform to share information, that is definitely what I hope that we can do. Be a resource and actually just provide you with some good information. But the Louisiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence was kind enough to show up and give me some information that I can share with you on how we can be proactive and part of the solution as it relates to domestic violence. So I just want to touch upon some very key facts. I looked up some information, and according to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, it defines domestic violence, because it's one of those topics where it is broad. It's not just one thing. People think that domestic violence, or I'll say I always thought domestic violence was just if somebody was hitting on you. But domestic violence includes other things. Let me define it first. So, according to the National Coalition Against domestic violence is the willful intimidation, the physical assault, battery, sexual assault, or otherwise abusive behavior. It can be a part of systematic patterns of power and control perpetuated by one intimate partner against another. It can also include physical violence, sexual violence, threats, emotional abuse, and the frequent severity of domestic violence can be very dramatic. It can dramatically impact individuals, families, and it definitely can be fatal. So we have to make sure we're looking for signs as it relates to domestic violence. And I just want to be proactive and find out if there are any ways that we here at Behavioral Health and Wellness can help, and if there are any organizations that are leading on the forefront to end domestic violence. If you want to chime in, make sure you do so. We can acknowledge what you're doing in the community, because as I said, we want to be a part of the resource. So the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence reports that in Louisiana, 34.4% of women and 28.4% of men experience intimate partner violence, that is physical violence. In 2010, Louisiana ranked number 4 for domestic violence. The national femicide, which is 2/3 of these murders are committed using guns. 81% of female homicides in Louisiana are committed by a partner or an ex-partner. And there has been at least one domestic violence homicide in every parish in Louisiana. As of December the 16th, Louisiana submitted 19,829 domestic violence misdemeanors and 1,209 protective orders were actually submitted as reported by the NICS. So definitely we need to find out what we can do or how we can be a part of the solution, because it is definitely my heart just goes out every time I look at the news just to see the reports, and then you hear that it was something that involved domestic violence. I mean, some of this we definitely need to find ways to be proactive, and I have did some research, and we're going to talk about that. So just some more information for you. Did you know in the United States, according to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, that's where this information came from, more than 10 million adults experience domestic violence annually. One of each of these adults experience only one incident of domestic violence, and adults in the US would experience violence every 3 seconds. Every 3 seconds, someone is experiencing domestic violence. That is a lot. However, because domestic violence is a pattern, so many experience repeated acts of abuse normally annually. So an incident of abuse happens far more frequently than 3 seconds. In 2016 through 2018, remember, this is 2020. We have been socially distanced at home since the beginning of the year, and people are in close quarters, and we don't even have those numbers as of yet. But from 2016 through 2018, the number of intimate partner violence victimization in the United States increased 42.7%. So, and all of this information comes from the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. We definitely need to learn what we can do. How can we help? How can we be a part of the solution? So you may ask yourself the question, why do they stay? Why would you remain in a relationship that is causing you harm? Well, there's answers. Sometimes people don't realize that they're in a domestically violent relationship. It may start with just talking harsh, or a push or a shove that may just over time. Then I mean, if they people feel like, okay, if he's not hitting me or she's not scratching me or touching me, it's not a problem. It is a problem, because first we have to understand and learn how to love ourselves. And when we get in touch and in tune with ourselves, we know when we're in a situation when somebody is talking to us that is not in alignment with what we deserve. We deserve the best. We want to be in relationships that are thriving, that are loving. And as I said, there are some reasons. That was just my spill. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, some of the reasons that people stay is, believe it or not, it may be financial burdens. People find themselves in situations where their parents, they don't want to leave because of the children. The fear of losing custody of their children, a lack of means and support. That's very important. Sometimes people get in these relationships and they feel isolated. They feel like, People are sick of them complaining, or if they speak up and they say something that they don't really want to hear, people say, I told you so, or I told you he wasn't any good for you, or I told you she wasn't any good for you. When people are going through, to scold them, sometimes we do that, but that's not the answer. Sometimes we have to learn how to communicate and how to make people feel comfortable with sharing with us, because if not, they find themselves in those isolated situations and they won't say anything until it's too late, unfortunately. Um, so finances is one issue that is listed. Homelessness is another issue that's listed. Religious beliefs is another reason that's listed. Some religions don't believe in divorce, or don't believe that you should split up the family. So people feel pressured to stay in relationships that really just are not good for them. It's me, Dr. J, for Wellness Wednesday with Behavior, Health, and Wellness. If you're just joining us, if you know someone who may benefit from this information, and not shoving it down their face, but just providing them with a resource, tell them to tune in. Maybe this will be something that you can share with them, and it can start the conversation. Sometimes all we need to do is find resources and opportunities to talk. We have to learn how to talk about those hard subjects. And this is one of those. If we don't find a way to bring these numbers down, we will continue to see the reports coming in on the news. We will continue to lose lives. This is very bad. Louisiana is number 4. So let's see. And as I said, unsupported friends and family are on the list. So, we have to find a way to communicate with our loved ones, even if they've come to you before and they may have found themselves in a situation and it is like, well, I told you about this. That is not the approach. We have to find ways to be supportive. And even if it's finding resources for someone that we love, we need to do what we can so we can stop domestic violence. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but it is also a month that is set aside for domestic violence awareness. And today, if you notice, I am wearing purple. This is the color that um, represents the domestic violence awareness. And when I looked at some of the history on why the color was chosen, some of the things that I saw was because it represents power. We need to empower people that are going through this. We need to support the shelters and the programs that actually help families that are in need, that experience domestic violence, because it's not just one partner sometimes that's being violent towards another partner. Sometimes there are children that is involved. Sometimes children are being hurt as a result of watching the parents fight or seeing the altercations in the home. And how does that affect the children? To be honest, it becomes a cycle. And if you know anything about cycles, cycles are repeated. So if you see your parents speaking to each other poorly, or you living in a household where kind words are not the norm, what happens? The children feel that that is love. So if somebody is speaking with them to them in that manner, doesn't even bother them because they've grown up in that situation. So children are affected by this as well, and we need to find out what we can do. Part of the way that I am trying to use my platform to be of help is to talk about it today. I'm talking about it. I want to stay on this because the reports continue to come in about domestic violence, and sometimes it's fatal. A lot of times it is fatal. People are not surviving. And then when you hear about the consistent accounts and you start listening to the reports talk about the amount of the police reports that come in, and the history. I mean, you'll be amazed at the history. So we definitely have to use the platforms and support those programs that are trying to find ways to end domestic violence. So today here on Behavior Health and Wellness, I want to talk about it. If you're just joining us, it's me, Dr. J, with Behavior Health and Wellness, and we are speaking about the fact that October is also, in addition to Breast Cancer Awareness Month, it is also Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So some of the results of intimate partner violence, as I said, can be you can get, I don't know if you have ever heard of battered woman syndrome. And I'm quite sure, since the reports are coming in now, that not only women are being part of or victims of domestic violence, but men are affected as well. So I'm quite sure that the tweaking of that terminology will come at some point, but it's called battered woman syndrome. And also, people who are victims of domestic violence can find themselves experiencing symptoms related to PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress syndrome. I know that when we first started hearing a lot of information about PTSD, it was relative to veterans who had experienced war, as a result of war and being in combat. But PTSD is post-traumatic stress syndrome. Now, when we speak about BWS, which is battered woman syndrome, that is more of a result, and PTSD is actually clinically diagnosed. So, but it is a result of battered woman syndrome. I mean, of domestic violence. So we definitely have to make sure. I mean, people are being more educated. If you notice, when you go to the doctor, you may be in for a screening or a checkup, and they may even ask, do you think that you are in an abusive relationship? And maybe you are. Karen, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you, because as I said, if you know someone who may be experiencing in a bad situation, it is not to badger them. This is to provide a resource. I mean, you can send us an email to behavior.healthandwellness@gmail.com. And if you want to receive resources that way, send us an email. There's also a hotline. There is the Louisiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence. You can reach them at 888-411-1333, or you can make an anonymous call to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is 800-799-7233, and that is 800-799-SAFE. We have to find a way. What can we do? Because domestic violence is really affecting us. And don't forget, here in Louisiana, we're number 4. That says a lot. That says a lot. And, it makes me think to bad nerves. My nerves bad. We don't know how to communicate. I'm not saying we in Louisiana don't know how to communicate. I'm saying that period, people in relationships need to learn how to communicate. Look, being in a relationship is a lot. And part of that is to understand and know how to communicate and know when somebody is talking to you any kind of way. But also we need to understand that we don't want to just come off as aggressive either. They always, we joke about the women and we say, don't nobody tell me nothing. I'm a female. I know that I probably pushed a couple of buttons, but the more that I learn about just interacting and my part in a relationship, I try to check that, because we all have bad days. I know I am right now. Don't make me start talking about my duties as mom, IT, and dealing with the whole COVID situation. But right now it's stressful. So some days I'm not at 100%, but I try to take deep breaths. And when I'm dealing my family. I try not to impose my bad attitude because I get them like everybody else on my family members, and just try to be mindful because you never know. I mean, my daughter has feelings. My oldest, when she calls, I have to collect and think about her feelings or what she may go through. When my husband comes home, what he may go through. I mean, it's a team effort, and it's difficult, especially when we don't. I don't know how to put this, but I'm trying to be sensitive. Um, if you grow up in a household and you're not taught how to communicate, and if you're not taught about how to be in a relationship, it can be difficult. And just like right now, the Black community is finding themselves needing to have the talk with their children about how they should respond if they are approached by a law enforcement officer. We also need to have the talk with the children, with our loved ones, about how to communicate and to be in a relationship. Because if you are in a relationship and you feel as if that's love, if somebody is giving you a black eye and saying you're sorry and they may buy you something or whatever the cycle is, because it changes. That's not love. And we just have to learn how to communicate. And then once we learn how to communicate, if you find yourself in a bad relationship, you can maybe, hopefully, figure out early on, wait a minute, this is not what I need. This is not what I deserve. And it starts with communication, and it starts at home, and we have to learn how to coexist. So those are just some of the ways that we can actually try to put an end to domestic violence because it's ongoing. I also wanted to find out information because we talk about statistics. We talked about the fact that here in Louisiana, we're number 4. We also talked about the reasons that victims stay, the outcomes, which can be fatal. But we also need to talk about what to do and what are the signs. And some of the signs that we actually get more into detail after this live. There was a representative from the Louisiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence who came on to give us some great information. So I hope that you plan to look at the interview after this live. And I mean, look, right now, you may not even realize that you are in a violent or a relationship that may be considered as domestic violence. She doesn't do anything, but she yells a lot, or he doesn't hit me. He does stand over me and kind of get in my face a little. Those things shouldn't happen. And we need to learn how to love and be in relationships that are strong and that are adding to our betterness. And I mean, whatever we can do, we need to do it. Here at Behavior Health and Wellness, this is the beginning, I hope, of a very necessary conversation. I know that there are other groups and organizations who are out there doing their part and offering conferences and Zoom conversations. I know right now we are in COVID, tensions are high, and we definitely need to find out what we can do about domestic violence because it is on a rise. Another thing that I would like to bring up, I am a practitioner, and part of my, I guess, my training, I am also a professor, and I teach continuing education. And part of that is I have the opportunity to train other practitioners on what to look for, what are signs of domestic violence. So we are trying to get the information out. All the time they may not come to therapy. There may be someone that's going to frequent emergency room visits, showing up with black eyes, showing up with marks around your neck, scratch marks, looking for for signs. You can see bruises on the arms, bruises on the legs. You know, we have to figure out how to have that conversation. So we train other practitioners, we train members of the fire department, we also train the paramedics, whoever we can, so that whatever the first line, whoever is the first person to come in contact with somebody who may need help, not to overstep their boundaries, because sometimes it could just be a scratch or a bruise, that it may not be that that person is in a domestically violent situation. But you know, we have trainings where we talk to other professionals on how to look at the signs. And if you want to schedule a training, or if you know someone who can benefit from having that type of training in your setting, your work setting, your environment, send me an email. I'm at behavior.healthandwellness@gmail.com. And if you're not in my area, or if it's not something that I can provide, I definitely can provide other resources for someone that may be in your area that can come and speak with you or train you on what is the most appropriate way to deal with this. Um, let's see. Also, you know, it's amazing that right now, we still are using the police department as a resource for domestic violence. And look, when it gets to the point where you have to call the police, in most cases, it is been an issue. So, you know, if you need to go to counseling, there's all type of counseling right now. You have couples counseling in therapy, you have marriage therapy, you have all type of groups that are very preventative. Seek out some of those resources, because it may be something. There you learn how to communicate also. It's very, you would never think how far you can go with someone, instead of just you need to know the signs. You need to know how to communicate. You need to know, you know, look at people, and that's, you love this person, but you don't know if they're having a bad day. You know, we need to be able to talk about this. So seek out some of those resources. I want to get to my points of the day. As I said, Drum Saint Publishing is trying to find out, what are you reading. So make sure you go over to that Facebook page and friend that page. If you have not become a friend of that page, it is a great resource. Right now, I don't see any comments. And if you're just joining us, it is Wellness Wednesday. I am Dr. J, and I really appreciate you for tuning in. It is a wet Wednesday here in Louisiana. We are wet from Tropical Storm Zeta, and I hope that that is not going to turn out to be anything more than just some rain. And we can use the rain. You know, the rain has its benefits. It waters our plants, and it actually helps us with our food resources. So you know, we welcome the rain. We just don't want to have too much rain. We don't want to have to be fearful of the rain. So definitely, I wanted to make sure that I'm doing all of my housekeeping. On next week, hopefully you'll have the opportunity to tune in. I'll be talking about diabetes too. Type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes has really been something that has right now with COVID, it is an underlying condition, and people with type 2 diabetes are vulnerable. So if you want to get some information on that, make sure you tune in next Wednesday to our live, and I'll have some good information. And also we'll have a special guest. We'll have someone that's going to be joining us for our Bossed Up segment. And shout out to everybody who has appeared on the Bossed Up segment or brought us some great information. We really appreciate you. I'm excited to give you, now comes the time when I'm going to talk about that exciting news that I mentioned at the beginning, the podcast. Very excited. Our podcast is on Anchor. That is anchor.fm/ Dr. JAAY. Make sure you tune into the podcast. The podcast is a great resource, especially if you can't be here with us on Wellness Wednesday, or if you're one of those podcasters who like to listen when you exercise or while you're driving. The great news is we are now on Google Google Play, Breaker, Overcast, Radio Public, and Spotify. So yay! We are hopefully we'll be picked up on wherever you like to get your podcast. But right now, congratulations to Behavior Health and Wellness. I have to just give myself a congratulations because I think it's a great thing. We have other outlets that we can bring you this great content. I hope you feel like it's great content. I put forth a lot of effort to make sure that I'm bringing thought-provoking content to behavior health and wellness. And if you have not friended the page yet, if you know somebody who can utilize this great information, make sure you pass that information on to them and let them know that they can friend the page at Behavior Health and Wellness on Facebook. And also, if you tune into our YouTube page, give us a thumbs up if you like the content, and also subscribe, and you'll get notifications when we have other information that's coming through. Let's see. Very excited to announce that our blog is in place. So if you like to read blogs, I am still growing. I'm still trying to get more information on, but right now the blog is up and I am providing information on the segments. So if you want to tune into the blog, you can go to behaviorhealthtalk.blogspot.com. That's Behavioral Health Talk at blogspot.com. Right now, we have information that is relative to the behavioral health and wellness with Dr. J, and I'll also be bringing you some other information on that blog, more information about wellness and some good health tips. So let's see. I want to thank you so much for all your congratulations. Shout out to you, Miss Karen Gilmore. Don't forget, if you want information about that coding, you can always look up Miss Karen Gilmore. She was a great guest, and her blog is actually she's on the blog, and also the podcast with her interview is all also available. So tune in. I am so excited about all of the resources that we have, and I am in so many places, not because it's easy, because it's difficult. I have to learn each of the different media outlets. I have to learn how to work them, but it's important because if you are somebody who really enjoys or you like the programming in Instagram, we're there. If you love Facebook, thank you, Facebook, for providing us with this source. We're here. We're here. We're not just here on the page, but we're here live as well. So, tell a friend to tell a friend. We're providing you with this information. The blog, some people are visual. People pick information up different. Some people like to listen. Some people like to see. That's why I like the Facebook Live, so it can give you that live connection. Some people just like to hear the information. That's where the podcasts come in. Look, we're doing everything we can to bring you this great information because I don't want to sit down and be one of those people that just complain about the problem. It's always a problem. Yes, in life, problems occur, but there are solutions. So I want to make sure to be a part of the solution. And if you like the content that you see on the page or on the podcast, wherever, make sure you send us an email. If you one of those people who kind of shy and don't really want the shout outs, because I love to do the shout outs, send us an email and let me know that you want to have your question read on the live, and I can do that. The email address is behavior.healthandwellness@gmail.com. At this time, before I get ready to close out, I want to say that I hope that everybody is safe as we have yet another tropical storm in the Gulf. That is Tropical Storm Zeta. I want to pray for those families, especially those families that are in those areas that are not protected by the levee protection. And I also want to take a moment just to pray for those families that have been directly affected by domestic violence, because look, we never know what's going on with people, and every day somebody has been affected. It doesn't just affect one person. It can affect households. It can affect communities. Right now, as a nation, Louisiana is number 4. That's alarming. And I have I really want to be a part of the solution. I live here in Louisiana, so I definitely want to see those numbers go down because, I mean, if somebody's hurting, we're human. So that should give us pause to know that those numbers are increasing, especially right now with COVID. And we don't even have those numbers yet. We just have those reports that are consistently on the news stating, leading in with domestic violence. So that's all that I have today. I appreciate you for joining me. Please tune in for the interview immediately following this. We have the representative from the Louisiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence. I thank them for coming to give us some great information. Don't forget, if you have questions or concerns, you can always send me an email to behavior.healthandwellness@gmail.com. If you are interested in advertising with us, yes, we do have advertising. You can always send us an email, or you can send an email to Drummer Enterprises, which is the consultant component, and that is Drummer, DRUMMERENTRPRISES @yahoo.com. I did not misspell that. That is definitely how it is. It's Drummer Enterprises @yahoo.com, and that is Hopefully you have the opportunity to tune in. It's me, Dr. J, with Behavior Health and Wellness. It is Wellness Wednesday. I hope that you enjoyed this information. Until next time, be well. Don't forget to tune into the live. Thank you.